state swing today in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Path to the White House runs right through this state. And with your help, we will win in November. We are going to win. We are going to win.
It's her second appearance with running mate Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Vice President Harris is on the side of the American people. She took on predators, fraudsters, transnational gang members. She stood up against powerful corporate interests, and she never hesitated, not once, to reach across the aisle if it improved people's lives.
The two will be in Detroit later today. Today marks 90 days until Election Day. Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance at a manufacturing plant in Eau Claire. He blasted Harris's votes as the tiebreaker in the Senate.
She cast the deciding vote for the so-called Inflation Reduction Act that sent a lot of our resources to China and sent interest rates through the roof. She cast the deciding vote for the very policies that made groceries and gas and housing less affordable for American citizens.
Vance promising to bring down the cost of living for all Americans if elected. Tropical storm Debbie doing damage in the Carolinas.
Coastal South Carolina has been inundated with feet of rain from Debbie and will continue to be for some time, though the storm is inching into North Carolina, where Governor Roy Cooper is already warning citizens to be ready and to take cover.
We expect the impacts to continue for several days. So please listen to local officials and follow evacuation orders if they are issued.
Debbie could weaken over the central part of North Carolina, but the rainfall will persist even as the system heads further north into Virginia and Maryland by the end of the week.
Fox's Evan Brown. America's listening to Fox News.
The doctor's office that mixed up your files has your Social Security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info and last 3 addresses. Your info is in endless places that could accidentally expose your info to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Russian military battling a surprise attack at their western border.
Ukrainian troops have launched an armored assault into Russia's southern Kursk region. But according to Russian authorities, Moscow's forces responded and described the situation as controllable. Russia says it sent reserves to help repel hundreds of Ukrainian fighters backed by tanks in what could be one of the largest ground incursions into Russian territory of the more than 2-year war. Authorities said 5 people were killed and at least 20 were wounded. Ukraine made no official comment, though there was evidence of military action on the Ukrainian side of the border. Forces described as voluntary paramilitaries fighting on Ukraine's side staged a major incursion into parts of Belgorod and the Kursk region earlier this year. In London, Greg Palcon, Fox News.
Bangladesh's military chief says an interim government headed by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus would be sworn in Thursday night as he returns from Paris to take over the administration and to try to restore stability in the country after an uprising forced the former prime minister to step down and flee to neighboring India. A warming ocean is putting the world's largest coral reef at greater risk than ever, according to scientists.
The Great Barrier Reef is the largest and one of the most biodiverse reef ecosystems in the world, but it's also vulnerable to global warming. Researchers have found that during the last decade, the water around it reached its highest temperature in over 400 years. The reef has suffered mass bleachings when the water gets too hot and coral expel the sustaining algae that give it such vibrant colours. That sometimes leads to the coral dying away. Scientists at Australia's Melbourne University warn the reef likely won't survive unless global warming is stopped.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. Just after the close, the Dow giving up some of yesterday's gains. I'm Lee Silasera. This is Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for East Central Illinois. Champaign and Ben Nevis Saturday. Nice, pleasant change in weather for the next 5 to 7 days of cooler, drier Canadian air. There's more heat and humidity showing up, though, the second half of next week and beyond. So today and going beyond, much cooler, less humid for the day today. Skies becoming partly sunny. The high right around 80 with a gusty northeasterly wind. Good sleeping weather for tonight. A few clouds. Dawn temperatures down to 58. Light northeast wind for the day tomorrow. Sunshine. Northeast to east breeze and a high at 81. Upper 50s here again tomorrow night. Sunshine for the day on Friday up to 77. Sunny to partly cloudy skies for the weekend at 76 on Saturday. A Sunday high up near 77 degrees. Back up near 80 on Monday. Clouds increase next Tuesday. Probably a couple of showers, maybe a thunderstorm the second half of next week with daytime temperatures back to more seasonal levels into the lower and middle 80s and nights in the 60s. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Soldier.
Hey, what's up? It's The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Derek Piper, Kyle Tosk, intern Jimmy Sebeski. No Lante today. They believe this is his last day of baseball, so could be seeing and hearing a lot of the pillar of our show, one of them at least, hear a lot going forward. We'll need him for football season. We're definitely going to want him on board for that. We were just talking pre-show, getting ready for those Pia's spots, which are always fun to go over there on West Springfield Avenue. Eric Meyer and company do a great job. We always have a lot of fun, and we're gearing up for show number 1 over there, which will be, as of right now, I think it's pretty much set in stone, Wednesday, the day before the opener against Eastern Illinois, which of course is a Thursday night kickoff, 8 p.m. Central Time there at Memorial Stadium. Before then, a big matchup against Kansas the following week, a Saturday evening kick, that one being at 6 p.m. But we're not that far away from football being hot and heavy here. And Hard Knocks last night, which, you know, as a Bears fan, I was tuned into that, even though it was late night before getting all the kids down and everything. I convinced my wife to watch it with me. I figured it's always kind of fun, really, even if you're just, I'm not saying she's not a football fan, because she is, but you get some of the off-the-field storylines, and it's a cool look inside of teams. And when your franchise is finally doing it for the first time and you got a lot of hype around the squad and you got the number 1 draft pick in Caleb Williams, I've been looking forward to this a great deal. So I know that Kyle watched it as well. I imagine Jimmy did. Did you watch it?
I did not. I was kind of locked in on my Cubbies getting a win.
Fair enough. Yeah, the Cardinals got one too.
And playing some NCAA. I'm 5-0 on my online CFP season.
There you go.
Road to the CFP.
There you go. I like that for sure. But let's get into Hard Knocks takeaways at the front end of this show. We're going to hear from, I want to focus on running backs here really the next 2 days for Illinois football. We're excited tomorrow to have Caden Fagan locked in to join us. It's going to be Illinois football's media day tomorrow. And shout out to Brett Moore for lining us up with the RB1 for Illini football. Will join us on tomorrow's show. Today I want to play some Aiden Lawfrey. He spoke to the media. Thad Ward, the running backs coach, met with the media last week. We haven't had a chance to get you that as well. I think just the options in that backfield, hearing about Lawfrey being healthy, how he can complement Fagan. There's been a lot of talk this offseason about Josh McCray, too, and whether he can have a bounce-back season, finally a healthy season, and maybe start to look like the version that we saw and we're excited about as a freshman. I know he's trimmed down his frame, too. That's a storyline. So I want to dive into all that here later in this show. But let's start off with Hard Knocks, Kyle. Your level of excitement going in.
Let me start with you.
Okay,
because you're the Bears guy.
Fair enough.
It's Bears Hard Knocks.
I'm
sure you were fired up. I watched it because I like watching Hard Knocks, and I was especially excited for this Bears one. I've said it for a while. I think this is going to be a fun one to see the Caleb dynamic. We got a lot of that. But how fired up were you about episode 1, and what were your thoughts on? Did you think it was a good episode?
Yeah.
Meh? Impressed?
It was solid. It was solid. I'd give it a solid
I'm
B
with you.
grade.
Yeah.
I think there wasn't anything that was super, big storyline, like really got me pumped up and those type of things, like dying to talk about as far as that goes. Now, seeing Caleb Williams and getting more of an inside look at him, obviously I was really interested to see what that looked like behind the scenes and in training camp. And I've been doing some readings up on like the training camp reports, and I know he's had some ups and downs and some good days, and certainly whenever similar to Illinois basketball, when a clip hits social media, like a Kasparas Shakachonis pass or three, when Caleb Williams is thrown on the run, or a dime to DJ Moore or Roma Dunze, like that gets the blood pumping for sure. So I did take some notes here on both Caleb and Matt Eberflus. I felt like were the two main focuses in episode 1. I did anytime you get into the intro and you hear the music, and then they're starting to show like scenes from Chicago, and you got the river and that whole kind of thing, and then like any flash of like a Walter Payton and Dick Butkus, those type of things, always really excited for. So I will say it was different, because I don't know how much you guys maybe watched of the Jets one last year.
I didn't watch much of it.
I don't blame. I mean, you don't. You being a Dolphins fan in the AFC East, you probably didn't want the Aaron Rodgers propaganda show.
Yeah, that's what I figured it was going to be.
And it was.
Pretty much.
It was. It was different. It was different in the Caleb Williams initial experience on Hard Knocks versus Aaron Rodgers. Now, I think there are some understandable reasons why it was different. Like episode 1, I felt like for the Jets was just a hour-long Aaron Rodgers infomercial drool session. Like, we've never seen a quarterback like this. Pretty much taking backhanded shots at Zach Wilson while also praising Aaron Rodgers for his talent, and then some of his, I think they were conscious about trying to shape public opinion and maybe remake some of his image, especially on the note of maybe mentoring a young quarterback. They were really big on that with him and Wilson versus, there wasn't a lot of talk that was a big thing for him with Jordan Love, which is kind of ironic because Brett Favre caught a lot of flack for not doing that with Aaron Rodgers. So that was pretty much what the Jets was, and I wondered if from the get-go it was going to be like Bears camp, here's why Caleb Williams is so much better than Justin Fields. And there wasn't that. And I compliment them for not forcing it, not just automatically brushing over some of his early struggles. I'm not saying that's been the only storyline, but just automatically being like, let's go to everybody on the team and be like, yeah, Justin couldn't do this, and here's actually how we really felt about Justin and some of his his flaws and whatnot. But I noticed that was a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I will say the scene where they had Caleb Williams like entering training camp with the Bulls intro music. Yeah. I'm like, okay. I mean, we're making MJ comparisons on day one of training camp here. Come on now. That's a little much. But no, I agree with you. I think it was, for the most part, it was toned down, and just the focus was more on, this is the guy that is going to be the leader of this Bears franchise now. But they were also showing the one-on-ones with Matt Eberflus, with the coaches, him learning. It wasn't just like, oh, this guy's the savior of the city. He's already incredible.
Right.
It was more so actually focusing on the process of his first training camp, other than the MJ intro, which I was like, I rolled my eyes at that one a little bit. But
which there's, of course, serving that up to Chicago fans.
Now, the scene was cool. It was really cool the way they produced that. But, I mean, maybe wait a little bit on that one.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, during the lead up to then playing that song, they're playing media clips, things that people have said in the media about him. I think it was even like there was one from Big Cat who says like 100 out of 100, he's going to be the dude, like that type of thing. And then somebody, whoever it was, I don't know, ultimately I didn't do my research and be like, all right, this guy said that and all that. But somebody goes, I think thereabouts the line is that he could be the biggest sports figure in Chicago since Jordan. And then he could, right?
That's fair.
I was trying to think off the top of my head. That was even one where my wife was like, really? That's a big, grand statement. Derrick Rose is one that obviously didn't have the longevity, but to be the MVP and one of Chicago's own, even for Caleb to top Derrick Rose would take a lot, especially just in terms of like a short-term window. Anybody else?
Kaner for sure.
Yeah,
Kaner and Taves just as a duo. I'd say you kind of make Brizzo a duo as well. He'd have to anybody that's won a title, because they're hard to come by in Chicago sports.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Brian and Rizzo, for sure.
Yeah, I would say Patrick Kane's probably been the biggest Chicago sports star since Jordan in that time span.
Lou Piniella.
Yeah. Lou would age about.
I liked Lou Piniella.
Lou would age about like 30 years a season, playing all the day games.
No doubt about that.
His ejections or something to watch.
Yeah, no,
my goodness,
no doubt.
Yeah, big hothead.
No doubt. But yeah, I mean, especially in a Bears context, they haven't had that star for a long time. Jay Cutler was supposed to be that, and he had his moments. But
when you think about the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, a position that hasn't had a 4,000-yard passer in its history, that's just had so much struggle, if he is a top of the NFL quarterback, even regardless, honestly,
he's a top 10 quarterback.
Top 10 quarterback, but even regardless, obviously if he wins a Super Bowl for Chicago, he would be. No doubt to me, just because I think hockey just isn't – football is football in Chicago. Bears football is Bears football. Even without a ring, like if he just elevates the Bears offense and is a top 10, top 5 quarterback in the league, I think he probably could stake claim to that title, because it would just be he'd be such a superstar if he solved the quarterback problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I'm not to say when I was like, okay, they didn't maybe do full-on hype train. There was some of the hype train in there for sure. And like you mentioned with that scene in particular, and it was cool. I mean, as a Bulls fan, as a guy that when I was growing up, you got the Jordan Bulls, and of course it's iconic to play that intro music and do the starting lineup type of thing. And you saw some of the flashes of what he can be, and they certainly put those two realities against each other. Some of the struggles, some of the like, okay, he's still learning how to read certain coverages or know the reads in an offense. He threw an interception here. I mean, of course, every quarterback in a training camp is going to throw an interception, but they showed some of his frustrations and growing pains that have come early, but also some flashes of throwing across the body where I know that there was like a defensive back was like, that's just a sick throw, which it was. That was one that came out where he is going left, throws across his body, and hits Keenan Allen on the sideline. And there was another like drop in the bucket throw over the top to DJ Moore. And those are the things that obviously as they come in game action, and certainly we'll hope for that as Bears fans, that when they play the Bills this weekend, and there was, I don't know if it's been officially reported, but there was some talk from some reporters that he might play a full quarter coming up this weekend. Like if there's any of that flashes in an actual, I know it's an exhibition game, but a preseason game, then we can get a little bit more substance to this whole kind of thing. So I thought the Caleb thing was interesting. The dude is a terrible singer.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a pathetic performance.
Not quite as bad as the Canadian offensive lineman.
He can't sing either, but he did pull out
He did.
He had a prop, which was the Eagle Speedo.
His performance was quite a bit better.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if his singing voice was.
No,
that was pretty brutal.
His singing voice was not there. I think Caleb in general, I mean, he's kind of like got a softer voice to him. Doesn't give off like, and I'm not saying every quarterback has to, like the hard outer shell, the macho. I mean, he's got swagger and confidence to him. You know that he's a star, but it's different where he's maybe not as edgy as some other guy, or you know what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
And then again, like I was thinking to myself, like, what if Rodgers was in that situation? Now they don't do that for veterans. Like they're purposely trying to make rookies look bad and embarrass themselves for the most part. Like Rodgers might go up there and give a TED Talk. Like I don't know. Like what's he gonna do? Like
oh boy, his TED Talks would be something.
Yeah. Speaking of
if
edgy,
you've ever followed him,
a little bit, not entirely.
I think
popular
that'd probably
out
be
there.
on the chopping block of the Hard Knocks production if Aaron Rodgers gave a TED Talk to the.
So.
He just
in
says
the meeting room.
He says lights, please, and then they just don't turn him back on.
Yeah.
For the whole day.
How would Tua do in that situation?
I don't know. He's kind of always been a little quirky. I mean, he's kind of a vocal guy, but I don't know. He's similar in that he's not like this huge presence or anything.
Sure.
He's also a lefty, and lefties are inherently weird.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which I can say because I'm part lefty.
That's fair. I think we've learned. I think over time, Peyton Manning's gotten more comfortable like he did SNL and those kind of, like Peyton Manning's funny. I wonder about maybe earlier in his career he might have. I wouldn't want to hear Peyton Manning sing. Like that might have been.
Yeah.
That's not a requirement. Like it doesn't go hand in hand. Of this guy has to be a great performer in front of people, and that shows that he can be a good quarterback. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, of course, insert Kermit the Frog jokes if he were to do anything like that. Matt Eberflus, and this was one.
This is something I want to talk about.
Yeah, we need to talk about.
He
this.
is an odd dude.
He is odd, right?
There's just something off about him. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
He's never going to be the coolest cat. He's not going to be a captivating personality. He's not going to bring a super cool factor, even though I thought he came off cooler to me than anything that I viewed him to be prior to.
The beard is kind of a glow up for him a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. Something about it. He looks a little more like an NFL head coach with the beard.
No doubt. And I liked his even though it was funny that he was matching outfits with an assistant on the staff when he does his whole get together at his like lakeside mansion or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, he's been made fun of in the past for not being the smoothest character behind the microphone and some of the things that he says at press conferences. And I think at one time we were using his introductory press conference and comparing it to Tim Beckman and those kind of. Anytime you're in that realm, you're not on certain solid ground. But I did like some things. I did like. You got anything else that you want to add about just kind of things that maybe you weren't super impressed by, or just his overall persona?
Well, something about him. It's just like even like the one-on-one meeting when he had Caleb Williams at his desk or something, or he's coaching guys. It's just, there's something off. Like, I don't know. Like he comes up to me and starts coaching me. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how much authority he'd have to me. It feels, based on just the way he kind of goes about things, his mannerisms, kind of the way he speaks, it just doesn't, to me, feel like a guy that commands an NFL locker room.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that, like, his first team meeting that they show, and he does go into, like, study the greats, those type of, like, study what Walter Payton did, and Jerry Rice. And, like there are plenty of, like, you're going to be a coach, you're going to say probably some cliche things and whatnot, but he doesn't give off, like, this super commanding presence type of thing. On the note of, like, being cool, like, I don't know how cool Bill Belichick was.
Sure.
Now he seems
it's not
cool
necessarily
now.
a requirement to put a good football team together, but it just, I don't know, he came off kind of a little odd and quirky to me.
Yeah. No, I think that's part of who he is. Now Belichick now dating like a 26-year-old or whatever, so maybe he's a lot cooler now. Maybe, just Tom Brady showed, I think you get a lot cooler when you leave New England. There must be something to that. I did appreciate, the meeting in his office with Caleb was all right. It wasn't anything super interesting. I did like they focused in on some of the one-on-one dialogue during practice. Mm-hmm. And that's, for me, where I criticized and have been skeptical of, number one, that hiring, and don't get me started on the soapbox of why is Bill Polian having a bunch of pull inside the Bears front office and telling them what to do, and either hire Jim Caldwell or this guy, and we're supposed to listen to you, even though you were the GM of a team that beat us in the Super Bowl, like whatever. I wanted an offensive head coach because I really think that value between the head coach and the quarterback, the development, of course, the play calling, putting your top paid staffer in a position to elevate your quarterback to the max is pretty important. Not saying defensive coaches haven't had success there, but I liked that he was offering input, analyzing what he was doing, giving little insights here and there. And you would imagine, for a defensive mind, a guy that's seen a lot of football, and his job when he was the D coordinator for the Colts is to, like, confuse quarterbacks, take away things that they want to do. Like, you would feel like he knows that position pretty well and can analyze it from a different side, and maybe even say, hey, this is what the defense is going to try to take away from you or show you this, and then you're going to have to adjust to that type of thing. So I liked that, and it leads into this, what I felt like was the most interesting part of the episode, which was the Saban conversation, in my opinion, between him and Eberflus. And I liked that Saban said, Eberflus asked the question, and it felt like even though those guys have a relationship, he was still kind of picking his brain and trying to write notes down and whatnot. Said, how do you handle quarterbacks? And Saban said, I always stand really close to them. I want to know and ask them, like, what did you see on this play? What's your version of what just happened out there? And never – I thought another interesting point that Saban said, never be negative with the quarterback in front of the team.
Because he'll do that to other positions.
Yeah, right. He's definitely done that for sure. And I wonder if we can ask any former quarterbacks that played for Nick if he actually stood up to that standard of never like just ripping a quarterback in front of everybody. But I thought that was interesting. I want to talk more about the Saban combo. But what did you think about maybe just kind of the insights between Eberflus and Caleb? And honestly, that's a big thing that he's got to show this year, that he is the right guy at the top of the totem pole for Caleb Williams going forward, because wins and losses, of course, will determine the biggest thing. But the Bears are evaluating how do they get the most out of their biggest asset and whether Eberflus is the guy that can do that.
Yeah, you said it right there, really. I think back in the offseason, I was on the same page as you. I was calling for – I don't understand. You're moving on from Justin Fields now. It just hasn't really worked. Eberflus has had some really questionable things, like you said, whether it's just the way he handles things publicly or just the fact that his teams
that he hired too.
Some of the staff, well, yeah,
dude got arrested. Yeah, he hired Getsy, who was terrible. Like,
yeah, and obviously, no, he inherited a full blown rebuild, so I don't necessarily want to say like his record through his first 2 years means that he can't coach in the NFL. But I just thought it would have made a lot of sense for the Bears to just say, let's just start this thing over. Let's open up this window completely with new quarterback and a new offensive-minded head coach for that quarterback to grow with and build a relationship with. Whether that was Jim Harbaugh or whether that was somebody else, I thought the Bears should have gone after Jim Harbaugh. Mm-hmm. But
he's in the news today for some reason.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. But no, I thought I did like seeing that. I was impressed by that. The fact that they really highlighted that there is a true bond forming between those two, because that's the biggest thing you need for a rookie quarterback that has so much on his shoulders, like Caleb Williams. I didn't know if Eberflus was the right guy. Like, is that a connection that's going to work? Is that a pairing that is going to be able to develop him to his fullest potential? And that question will remain to be answered, but I thought to see kind of the effort that Eberflus was putting in a lot of those one-on-one conversations and coaching points, and whether it's a meeting in his office or on the field, they really highlighted that that's a growing relationship, and that's one that each side is putting an effort into. So I think that's good to see if you're a Bears fan, and I think we'll see. I think Eberflus is, at the end of the day, his defense improved a lot last year. The question really is, can the Bears offense elevate itself, which it hasn't forever? And I wonder if he's the right guy to do that, but at least he's putting an effort in.
Yeah, no, I like that for sure. And this is probably just me sour grapes wise, and of course situations matter in terms of, I'm not saying that if the Bears would have hired this guy, they would have been in a different situation, but the same coaching cycle, and it's kind of beating a dead horse, but Mike McDaniel goes to Miami, and admittedly, I didn't know as much about Mike McDaniel at that point, other than he comes from a great coaching tree. He's been to the playoffs with the Dolphins. Brian Daboll, who I really wanted, maybe he was dead set on going to the Giants. The Giants aren't in a great spot now, and some of his success in year one actually maybe got Daniel Jones paid and one they're regretting, but he's been to the playoffs with the Giants. You also look at Doug Peterson with the Jags, same coaching cycle, went to the playoffs with the Jags. So those are all offensive head coaches. You can talk about, again, Daniel Jones's future. Trevor Lawrence still hasn't fully lived up, maybe not even more than halfway lived up to what you would have thought through this first window for his career. But, yeah, that's something that I certainly evaluate. I know that Ryan Poles will be looking at that very closely this year, that they'll be expected to be a playoff team or in that mix, and if they're not, then maybe Eberflus is gone and there's a new cycle in there. I probably should have done my homework a little bit more when Eberflus was hired, because I didn't know a ton about him. I didn't know the relationship there with Saban. And I'm not saying just because Saban shows up during a Hard Knocks and now he's got more time on his hands, like these dudes are best friends or those type of things. I didn't know he coached him. I didn't know that he coached him at
Where
Toledo.
was that? They said on
Toledo?
Toledo. Yeah, interesting.
And you've got the super oversized pads that Eberflus was wearing
Eberflus
back in the day.
was huge back then, right? Man. I would not want to take a hit from him.
No, so I appreciated that, that Saban has that much respect for Eberflus at least, and to sit down and have that conversation. And they talked about expectations for Caleb Williams, and Saban really cautioning and offering up, hey, expectations can be a killer. They can really put a lot of pressure on a guy, and you've got to focus on the development. Not saying that it's anything that Matt Eberflus didn't already know, but he also then goes on to talk about leadership qualities, and sometimes you've got to instill certain characteristics into players. They don't all just come up with the best work ethic, the highest degree of pushing for greatness. Not to say that Caleb doesn't, or other guys who are key on that team doesn't, but did you find something to be more interesting or compelling in that conversation, or because to me that was the biggest thing from that episode, in my opinion.
I'm with you. Yeah, I thought that was cool. I would have liked to even see a little bit more of just say. I'm sure like Saban spent the whole day at Hallis Hall there, and there was plenty of stuff. And I think it was obviously the kind of the theme of the episode was Caleb Williams and his development, so that made sense. But I would have liked to see even more of that. Maybe cut the Simone Biles feature in half for their backup linebacker, whoever her husband is, and show me some Saban breaking some film down or something. But no, I'm with you. I thought that was cool. I thought it was cool too how could you believe how just DJ Moore comes up from practice? They do that whole thing.
Oh,
He's
boy.
like, hey, DJ, just come sign your $110 million contract real quick. We'll send you back out there. All good. And he comes
They
up.
couldn't have found a different time.
2 minutes, and he's like, cool, 110 mil.
Got 110.
See you later, guys.
Yeah, right.
It was so nonchalant and, like, cool. And
It was cool.
I mean, it's just like, man, all right, well.
One of the non-cool things about it, and I can't pass up on a chance to dog him any chance I get, Kevin Warren being there.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, this deal is done, right? Like, DJ's literally going to come up during practice and sign it. It's done. And Kevin's sitting there, like, in the chair looking. He's holding the piece of paper that has the contract details on it. And he's, like, asking, like, how much total money's in this contract? Like, guaranteed. So that would be, like, 82. Like, this is all done, dude. Like, it doesn't matter what you're saying.
How much of this stuff is like, all right, let's
stage, right?
Here we go. We got the camera set up. Go ahead, and I want you to talk about the dollar figure, and I want you to.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of these conversations are guided. I'll put it at that. Maybe not like scripted, but like set up, staged.
I think that's fair. I maybe should reevaluate. I give my wife crap for like, The Bachelor. You think that's real? Like that kind of stuff. These reality TV shows that you watch, you think people are really finding love in 8 weeks and those type of things or whatnot. Maybe there's a little bit of that to Hard Knocks.
I just found it so funny how they're just like, hey, DJ, you want to come up here and sign this $110 million deal? And it'll be real quick. We'll get this out of the way, and we'll send you on your way. He's just like, all right.
You got to be practicing pretty hard after that, right? Or maybe not so hard, depending on what type of person you are. But you got to be feeling good after you put pen to paper for that one.
I would say I was listening to some of the score today, and they were critiquing the fact that some of the fact checking, as far as I think Drew Rosenhaus says, this is the biggest contract in franchise history.
I was curious about that.
Even though, and then they say it on the voiceover, and it's really it's the biggest extension in franchise history. It's not the biggest contract. Maybe it's just semantics a little bit, kind of, even though it is actually a difference. But that is something they were kind of giving them flack for. But the DJ Moore deal in itself goes through 2029. He's got 2 more years left of his previous deal, and then now it's going to add 4 more years on top of that. So that'll take him into his season when he's 32 years old. I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. I know that some would say you don't have to give him that money at this point in time, but I mean, might as well keep him happy, establish that supporting cast around him. I mean, DJ Moore and Rome Odunze are going to be there for the long term with Caleb during this first 4 or 5 year window.
Absolutely. Yeah, you want to lock down your number one receiver. I mean, DJ Moore is a certified number one receiver. He had like 1,300 yards last year in that offense with Justin Fields throwing him the ball. So, I mean,
what's that supposed to mean?
When you lock up a guy like, I mean, that's Caleb. This can be Caleb's guy. I mean, maybe Rome Odunze will ultimately develop into that, but that's what you're supposed to do. That's what hasn't happened for so long, is surrounding your quarterback with pieces, with proven high-level skill guys weapons, and DJ Moore is at. So I don't know how anybody would have an issue with that. I do hope, though, that the receiver room, that trio of receivers, gets a feature one of these upcoming weeks.
And they surely will.
They will probably, but that's the one thing. Like, if I could have one thing, one episode that I really want to see, it's that trio of receivers and some of the behind the scenes and the Rome Odunze kind of learning from the two older guys, and that's something I hope happens. I'm sure it will.
It surely will. I would have liked more receiver involvement. Like, I would have liked a little bit more of Keenan Allen on screen, a little bit more of Rome Odunze in episode 1, but it probably makes more sense to kind of headline that in an episode than try to just, like, let's squeeze 5 minutes of that into this front episode. But like you said, maybe they could have trimmed off some of the Simone Biles and Jonathan Owens, which I get it. Like,
that's fine, but they did it. They spent like 10 minutes on that.
Yeah, they did.
Is he even going to make the team?
I mean, I'm looking at the one of the depth charts, and they've got him as a second string free safety. So
backup. All right.
Yeah, he'll probably be on the team.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You got
2 minutes of that would have been fine. I mean, I don't know.
It was kind of cool. Like, you see him, he's at the house, he's packing, that kind of thing. You got the dogs with the FaceTime. Like, Simone Biles is a megastar, so even if you're just doing it for her to be featured on there, because she is the brightest star for the USA and in the Olympics, especially. I mean,
is she going to be the Taylor Swift of the Bears this year now? And she's at Soldier Field, and we see that every broadcast.
I'd be fine with it. Let's have someone that that might be part of the formula.
Someone with real talent. Is that what you're gonna say?
No, I wasn't gonna say that. It might be part of the someone that's gonna annoy other fan bases. Like, oh, okay, so we got to see Simone Biles again.
Especially the Packers, who he's coming from, right?
Yeah,
wasn't Jonathan Owens a former
lines.
Packer?
Yes.
So maybe that's your.
There's
that's
the
your
angle
story
there,
line.
right?
Yeah.
And maybe if you want to dive so far in the weeds and do like NFL conspiracies and be like, okay, the NFL is going to try to get Taylor Swift back in the Super Bowl, and they need some kind of star on the other side.
The script says.
The script. There you go, Jimmy. The script says, let's get Simone Biles, and let's really put America at odds here. A lovable character, although maybe I think it'd be interesting to see how lovable Taylor Swift is among, especially let's be honest, the male population who watches NFL Sundays every week and maybe got a little or a lot of bit of Taylor Swift fatigue versus Simone Biles, who gold medalist and those type of things. So maybe I'm just going too far conspiracy, but I'm mostly joking. But it would be kind of fun.
I like it. I like it.
It's like a WWE face versus heel there.
Yeah, right.
I think most people would be cheering if it was just pitted down to Simone versus Taylor. I think most people would be pulling for Simone in terms of guys.
NFL fans.
Most NFL fans.
Not the general public. I don't think
Taylor
Swift
Taylor's
fan base
too
is
big of
not
him.
getting beaten by anybody.
Not if we're asking the teen population out there.
Probably not.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Anything else notable? They did a slip and slide.
Oh yeah,
that's always fun.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Was that cool, fun, lame? It was all right.
It's fine.
Yeah,
yeah. I liked the rookie. I mean, I know it was kind of Caleb Williams had kind of a dud, but I like the focusing on some of that fun, lighthearted rookie hazing type of stuff.
I love that.
I hope we get a lot of that.
A $25 million signing bonus.
Yeah, what was the deal with that? Everybody goes up there and says their signing bonus. I felt bad because Caleb goes up. He's like, signing bonus $25.5 million, and everyone loses their mind. And then the offensive lineman goes up $200,000. Now $200,000.
Yeah, right. I'd take that.
But in that room, I mean,
that doesn't mean quite as much.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you feel bad. He gets hurt.
Why does he
in
have
the
to say
preseason
that?
game?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
How much money is he making on a signing bonus more than some people are getting in a year? That's the thing. Like, what percentage in the NFL is he out, earning just on his bonus?
It's a good question. I know now. We talked about the quarterbacks. Isn't there 12 to 15 quarterbacks making in that 40 million?
I think
plus range.
Over half are making 30.
Yeah,
and I think it's almost half is making 40 now, and you got up close to 10 making 50. So, and if he's what people expect him to be, he's gonna be right there.
Oh yeah,
and
I know.
As we talked about, CJ Stroud's gonna get something stupid if he's if he's as good as he's been.
Yep.
If he continues to improve, especially with the new weapons he has, Stroud might get 60. That's not that crazy.
It's insane. I would have loved to see those two actually duel it out a little bit in that Hall of Fame game. Of course, that's not realistic. They do play early in the season. I think it's week 2 at Houston on like a Sunday Night Football. I'll have to do that, double check that to see the exact details there. But
there's 36 NFL players that's contract average annual value is more than Caleb Williams' signing bonus. 36.
Wow.
Now, he's also making more than his current contract, too. Like, he's making more in his bonus than he is with his salary.
Sure,
so you
right.
got to also factor that in.
Yeah, week 2, Sunday Night Football, Bears at Texans.
Could you imagine telling somebody before the 2023 season that, oh, yeah, week 2, 24 is going to be Bears-Texans Sunday night? You'd probably get locked up and put in an asylum.
Yeah, right.
But it makes sense now.
It does. I'm biased. I'll be super hyped, but I think that's one that America will want to see. Caleb Williams early in that rookie campaign and Stroud running it back and now having Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, and a team that could be a real factor in the AFC going forward. All right, that's about what we have as far as Hard Knocks goes. If you got any other tidbits, comments, questions, hit us up on the Max Twin City Recycling text line, 217-359-2255. I will say you can call me. Sal says, I can't name a Taylor Swift song, and I hope I never can. Wade, on the note of my comments regarding The Bachelor and other reality TV, says reality TV is not reality. Yeah, no, I agree. You're preaching to the choir there. Bill says, definitely the best Bears quarterback since Eric Kramer. Low bar. But factual, I think. I think. So let's see if we can do best ever here in like a 3-year window. That'd be ideal as far as that goes. So we will talk more football as we go along. As I mentioned, Aiden Lawfrey, Thad Ward, maybe some Josh McCray before we get out of here. I want to talk really and focus in on that running back room and what that needs to be for Brett Bielema and company coming up this season. So we'll do that next. Stick around for that. It is The Drive.
Better banking experiences start with local people and local decision making. Hi, this is Ryan Heiser, President and CEO of Fisher National Bank. We are a locally owned community bank that has served the area since 1955. Fisher National is rooted in the communities we serve. We pride ourselves on providing financial resources that match or better the mega banks. We are your friends and neighbors who are involved in your communities and take a vested interest in seeing our customers thrive and prosper. Offering a line of rewarding consumer-centric deposits, home mortgages, small business banking, and agricultural lending. There are no compromises banking local with Fisher National. Our convenient online and mobile tools are second to none. We'll work hard to meet your financial needs and earn your trust. Learn more about Fisher National at fishernational.com or stop by one of our branches. Our team looks forward to serving you.
Fisher National Bank. Exceptional communities, exceptional people. Member FDIC.
If you're looking for a great job, Spring Green is looking for you. Full-time, benefits and overtime, outside all day, work independently. How about full health insurance and a chance at matching funds for your 401k? Yes, Spring Green, your neighborhood lawn care team, serving all over Central Illinois. It's a great job, and if you're interested, connect with S. Imke, SIMMKE at spring-green.net. S. Imke at spring-green.net. Very happy and honored to have Dr. Abraham Kocherl, cardiac electrophysiology, OSF, Heart of Mary in Urbana. What is AFib?
Yeah, so atrial fibrillation is a heart rhythm disorder, and it's actually the most common heart rhythm disorder that needs treatment. So about 6 million Americans have it currently, and it's expected to increase to about 15 million by 2050. So it's a growing problem. There are lots of things that lead to atrial fibrillation, and this includes diseases like diabetes and hypertension, sleep apnea. Other factors that lead to it are an excessive alcohol and tobacco use, being overweight or obese, and being sedentary. Generally it's an older person's disease. Generally, if you have other heart conditions, it's worth looking for, so that there's a condition called heart failure, which commonly is associated with atrial fibrillation. So hopefully, if you have one of those conditions, those patients are being seen by a cardiologist, and that cardiologist is paying attention to the heart rhythm and keeping an eye on things to look for the development of atrial fibrillation.
To learn more, visit osfhealthcare.org. Airlig Plumbing Solutions. For your kitchen and bath remodels, sump pumps, maintenance plans, and even licensed backflow testing, Airlig has you covered. Your local plumbing contractors for industrial, commercial, and residential jobs can provide plumbing services, repairs, and installs with a quick turnaround by calling or texting 217-722-9499. Send an email with your plumbing issue and contact information to info@airligplumbing.com.
At ABC Heating and Air, it's our promise to help you always be comfortable. Do you need rescued because you're burning hot? Do you need rescued because your air is shot? Call ABC Heating and Air at 352-5400 and let us rescue you from the heat. ABC Heating and Air, 352-5400. Can't you see you need to call me at ABC? Call ABC Heating and Air. That's ABC Heating and Air, 352-5400.
You've set your financial goals. One kid plans to go Big Ten, the other Ivy. Your bucket list includes seaside sunrises and sunsets on the slopes, or perhaps a second home away from it all. Busey Bank can help develop the right investment strategy to take charge of the years ahead. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. Proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
If you're in the market for a new car battery, you could go to one of those big box stores, except there's no guarantee you'll be served by an actual car expert.
Clean up in aisle 3.
You could pick a battery off the shelf, except it might be close to expiring. Or you could just come into Interstate. Don't make a big box store blunder. With competitive prices and a more personal, reliable approach, Interstate Batteries is the clear-cut choice if you want to guarantee yourself a new and trustworthy car battery. They're open and ready to serve you at 2504 North Mattis Avenue in Champaign.
Illini fans, join us in Memorial Stadium as we honor 100 years of tradition with $100 football season tickets. Don't miss a moment this season and lock in your tickets for homecoming, Dad's Day, and a special rededication of Memorial Stadium on October 19th against the University of Michigan. Experience more cherished moments at Memorial Stadium this season and get your $100 season tickets at fightingillini.com.
Get the rock star treatment at Golden Nugget Danville and jam out with your cut of up to $400,000 every Saturday through the end of August. One lucky winner will be selected every half hour from 4 to 11 p.m. to spin and win up to $1,000 cash. Earn entries now through August 31st. Not valid for any participant of the Illinois Gaming Board statewide voluntary self-exclusion program. Must be 21 years of age or older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Next hour, we'll dive in to the Illinois running back room, what that looks like coming forward with a healthy Aiden Lawfrey, healthy Josh McCray, and it's important a healthy Caden Fagan because he did miss the last 2 games of last season. And the potential for that trio, I think most people would imagine Caden being the featured back and getting a big portion of the carries there, but Brett Bielema and company have continually brought up Josh McCray and how he looks different. Of course, Lawfrey can bring a different dynamic with his speed and those type of things. But I thought Jeremy Warner did a good job. I pulled up one of his articles and seeing just the difference between the running back production last year versus all other seasons for Brett Bielema when he was a head coach. And it was pretty alarming or just eyebrow raising, and something that I know there was a lot of focus for me personally. If you were to ask me about last season and what went wrong, I would start and probably spend a lot of time on the defense before even I got to the offensive side of the ball. But in terms of the ground and pound game, it needs to step up a level. Of course, it goes hand in hand with the passing game, extending drives, giving the ability to put up more production as an offense on the whole. But we will talk about that here coming up next hour. Before we get there, though, let's spend a little bit of time talking about the biggest news, I think, as far as the headline goes in sports today. How much does it really matter? I would say it probably doesn't matter at all. It's really just for people to get mad about or have opinions about. And we'll see if this guy comes out and says anything, because his comment earlier in the week was that when you do something wrong, you make up for it and you apologize. And as for right now, I don't have anything to apologize for. And that being Jim Harbaugh, the current head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers, of course, the national championship winning coach with Michigan last year. He had the sign stealing scandal. And this isn't even part of...
I know, it was such a letdown. Like, I saw Jim Harbaugh punished. I'm like, oh, we're finally getting some sign stealing repercussions coming down, instead of just, oh, I think that there may be some punishment coming sometime down the line for Michigan for the last year. But no, it was some recruiting violations. Was it dating back to that whole non-story from before?
It relates from the COVID-19 recruiting restrictions that Michigan apparently broke. They had contact with recruits and certain stepping over lines as far as that goes, and that Jim Harbaugh, it would have been, as I was reading through it, a level 2 violation for kind of like it's like a mid-level infraction for the head coach, but because he was non-cooperative with the NCAA and these type of things, like he lied about it and then kind of hid information from them, so they upgraded it to a level 1. What comes out is a severe penalty if he's still in college. It's a 4-year show cause. It's a 1-year full season suspension. So essentially, if he gets hired by a school, which he's not going to, over the next 4 years, he's going to be suspended for that first full season. So, like when Kelvin Sampson got I think it was a 5-year show cause after being fired from Indiana, that was a big deal because he wasn't going to the NBA to be a head coach. He was then having to be a staffer at the NBA level, which isn't a bad gig. But when you go from being the head man in Indiana to then getting fired because of recruiting infractions, and then you can't be a head coach again in the NCAA for 5 years, essentially because of the roadblocks put ahead of you, that was a big deal. This is not as big of a deal because Harbaugh's locked up for, I don't know what his years on his contract is in LA. One of you guys probably know. He's not going to be looking for a college job in the next 4 years. So this is really a nothing burger. It looks like a big punishment at the surface level if you're just saying, oh, show cause, year-long suspension. But he's not in college anymore, and it's past them already winning a title. So, admittedly, it seems a little harsh maybe just because I don't know what other than lying and not being cooperative, but I want to see what the sign-stealing thing comes of it, like you said.
Yes. I remember this recruiting story came out. It was well before even the sign stealing, where there was Michigan committed COVID recruiting violations, and it ended up to me being like, there's nothing here. I mean, if this is a big investigation, let's look at Georgia and all these schools. It's that I don't know the exact details. I don't know if you pulled them up in terms of what they actually violated. Maybe it was like a dead period or something that they broke. I can't remember. To me, it was a non-story at the time. As much as I dislike Michigan and wish that it wasn't, I thought that story before even the sign stealing was nothing. I was hoping, like you said, I was let down because I saw it, even like you said, what is a Jim Harbaugh punishment actually going to look like? I'm interested to see what happens to actually Michigan. Right. And that apparently there was some news on that like a week ago or earlier this week about Sharon Moore and that he might face some punishment. Like that's the stuff I'm interested in.
Some text, right?
That's the stuff I'm interested in. This was a letdown to me because I don't. Yeah, none of this is going to be applicable because Jim Harbaugh is the coach of the Chargers, and even if it goes horribly wrong for him in LA, no school's hiring him for these next 4 years. So this is not going to play any factor into anything. It's just a total non-story. I'm interested in the big stuff coming up. At some point, they've said for 8 months.
No, that's all very fair. Maybe that's just the next log on the fire for Harbaugh. Now what's different between him and like a Nick Saban is that Harbaugh's already proven that he's successful at the pro level. It's not like a guy that's trying his hand the second time in the pros and, hey, it might not work out again and he has to go back to college. And then all of a sudden, there's all these things that are looming for him. And possibly if he's implicated big time and proven that he like knew of this sign stealing stuff, or was just to a just egregious level, which some would argue would have to be for him to not know, which, of course, there's a lot of skepticism out there that would be impossible. But maybe further findings of the sign stealing type of saga, or however you frame it, maybe he will never coach again in college. Maybe that's a step too far, but
I don't think he will.
It's possible that they would just set that bar there anyway and say, you know, he's had too many infractions or whatever, that there's just essentially a death penalty on him. That sounds like you always got to take it with a grain of salt, the NCAA, to throw the hammer down on somebody like that. But I don't know. We'll let Jimmy, who is a Michigan fan, and the text line loves that about him. But your thoughts on this, Jimmy, from the Michigan perspective, or just your own opinions on Harbaugh and the findings today, or the announcement?
So, first off, Harbaugh, 5-year contract with the Chargers.
Yep. Okay.
It does say on this ESPN article that if a college team in the next 4 years wants to hire him, that they have to go in front of a NCAA legislation, and basically prove why he should be okay to hire.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll still have that 1-year suspension
right
in that 4-year span. I don't see a scenario even without this that Jim Harbaugh returns to the college game. He's gotten a national title with his alma mater. There's really nothing more for him to do at the collegiate level. The only thing he hasn't done in coaching that he wants to do is win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he retires as an NFL coach.
Yeah,
or
sure.
maybe high school, at the very end if his grandkids playing or something like that. But I think at a high level, he will end up as being an NFL coach, and I don't see him being a collegiate coach no matter what happens.
I'm with you. Why would he want to, right? No matter what the NCAA says.
There's and it's interesting for the COVID recruiting deal, or some call it Cheeseburger Gate, because
that's what it was.
Because he bought him a recruit a cheeseburger. It was what ended up happening. He got a 3-game suspension for that. I think people kind of forget about that. At the start of the year, he only coached 7 out of the 4 or 15 games, or 8 out of the 15 games for the season for Michigan. He missed those 3 at the start of the year, the 3 at the end of the regular season.
Cheeseburger Gate.
Yeah. So he only coached 6 out of the 12 regular season games for Michigan, and including missing Penn State and Ohio State. So that's it's certainly interesting. I think this is the NCAA looking like, oh, we're the big bad tough. We're gonna do the iron fist without actually really doing anything. I think they know full well that this is not going to do anything, but they want to make it seem like, oh, see, we're harsh. We give out punishments. When, let's face it, we know the NCAA really isn't interested in punishing anybody.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I agree with all that. And there's been that long-standing skepticism of how much they want to go to war. And in partial, and I've mentioned this a handful of times before, partially in their defense, especially now that we've gotten into the NIL age, the what's going to be the revenue-sharing age, those type of things, when you have COVID years, when they do something that people disagree with, they get sued and they lose. And I don't think they should have lost on everything they've lost on in court. And there was even that talk back late in last season when it's like, hey, maybe Jim Harbaugh should be suspended the rest of the season. And it was being put out through reports that Michigan's going to sue you. Michigan's going to ask for a temporary restraining order, which of course we know all too well as far as what that looks like in terms of the Terrence Shannon thing. Of course, very different scenarios, but I think that was maybe something that kept it was the Big Ten that was deciding the decision on that, right? The Big Ten was deciding the punishment.
The second suspension was the Big Ten. The NCAA was the first suspension. The first suspension.
So I guess I should say, it was the Big Ten, and it was like, okay, if you suspended them beyond those 3 games, we're taking you to court and those type of things. So the big question is going to be whether all of this comes back and they find enough that they're going to say, we're going to vacate your wins. We're going to say you didn't win the national title, even though we all watched him win the national title. And even then, of course, we know how this works, where that's happened in different situations. You're not going to be able to erase the fact that they did win. And yeah, it might be another one where people who hate Michigan are say, oh yeah, I remember the Fab Five, and you put banners in a box, and you're going to have to do the same thing with this national title. I mean, Michigan got what they ultimately desired out of it. it's crazy. The Connor Stallions thing is just, it's mind-blowing that happened and that he was the guy on the sidelines at Central Michigan and that he did buy all those tickets. And then you had the whole like LLC. He created a business and forged Blake Corbin's that's it. No, Blake Corum. Sorry. I put Reggie Corbin in there. Blake Corum's name on, like, it's just unfathomable that someone would do that. But that is what happened.
It was one of the wilder college scandals I can think of. And because it all happened in real time, like during the season. That's really rare to see that. I mean, most things you're looking at stuff that happened in the past, but for this, like in season, Connor Stallions gets fired, and then they go on to win the whole thing, while they've got this kind of dark cloud hovering over them. So yeah, that's a really unique. I don't know if there's anything in college sports where that's happened, where it was during the season the scandal was going on.
And maybe something comes down, if it does, within the next intermediate window, but before the end of this season, that Sharon Moore gets punished in a big way. As far as that goes, we'll see, because you are continuing on that Harbaugh tree in this effort for Michigan to try to defend their national title. Of course, that is a tall task, but they have a lot of NFL talent, especially on defense. Let's talk more college football after this break. We'll really focus in on the running game for Illini football, hear from a couple of participants in that, and give our thoughts on what that looks like for Brett Bielema and company. We'll do that next. This is The Drive.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Attacks, but as for the specific operation, we're going to reach out to them to see what their objective is.
The U.S. is also concerned about disinformation from Russia that could bring the truth of claims of Ukraine aggression into question.
Fox's Gernal Scott. Organizers of 3 Taylor Swift concerts in Vienna, Austria have called them off after officials say they've made arrests over an apparent plot to launch an attack on an event in the Vienna area, such as the concerts. Swift was scheduled to play there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. America's listening to Fox News.
The doctor's office that mixed up your files has your Social Security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info and last 3 addresses. Your info is in endless places that could accidentally expose your info to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Wrongful death lawsuit is filed over last year's Titan submersible implosion.
In the lawsuit, the family of late French explorer Paul-Henri Nargeolet accused Washington state-based sub-operator OceanGate of gross negligence. Paul was one of 5 people killed when the Titan submersible imploded in June of last year during an Atlantic voyage to the Titanic shipwreck. OceanGate's CEO and co-founder was operating the vessel at the time. The company has since suspended operations. The suit, which seeks $50 million in damages, alleges the Titan had a troubled history, that OceanGate failed to disclose key details about its durability, and that Paul, a veteran explorer, would not have participated in the expedition had the operator been more transparent. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
The EPA has taken emergency action to ban a pesticide that's known to harm fetuses.
The Environmental Protection Agency has issued an emergency order to stop the use of dimethyl tetrachloroterephthalate, also known as DCPA. It's the first time in 40 years that such an action has been taken by the EPA. DCPA is a pesticide used to kill weeds on crops like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and onions. It's been used in the U.S. since the late 50s and can linger in the soil, contaminating crops later grown in those fields. It can affect pregnant farm workers or others exposed to DCPA, changing fetal thyroid hormone levels linked to low birth weight, impaired brain development, and impaired motor skills later in life. Many may not have known they were exposed to the chemical. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Georgia's superintendent of schools says a new advanced placement course in African American studies doesn't violate the state's law against teaching divisive racial concepts because the law exempts AP and similar college-level courses taught to high schoolers. The state superintendent of schools says he will allow it to be taught. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for Eastern Illinois, Champaign-Urbana this Saturday. Nice spell of summertime weather coming our way for the next several days. Matter of fact, right up to about the middle part of next week. No real hint of autumn in the air, but a cooler spell. There's more heat and humidity showing up and portion of next week and beyond. Meanwhile, remnants of Debbie slowly winding its way up the eastern seaboard. Much cooler, less humid for the day today, becoming partly sunny in that sky condition. The high right around 80, gusty northeast wind. A few clouds for tonight, down to 58. For the day tomorrow, mostly sunny and 81 with a northeast to east breeze. Back down upper 50s for tomorrow night. Sunshine 77 on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, sunny to partly cloudy skies at 76 on Saturday. 77 on Sunday. We're back up near 80 for Monday and Tuesday. More seasonal readings into the low and mid 80s the second half of next week. And maybe a couple of showers and thunderstorms late Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. For CVJ Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solke.
It is The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Let's talk some Illini football. A week from, or not a week, but see, I'm already trying to speed up time and get us there.
I wish it was a week.
Yeah, 3
I'm
weeks from
dying
tomorrow,
for it.
right?
That's right.
3 weeks from tomorrow, the opener against Eastern Illinois. Super fired up to get college football here. It was fun talking Hard Knocks. That's a little taste of football on the horizon, but we really want the full thing. And the running game is going to be really important for Brett Bielema and company. Of course, there's a number of different things you can focus on for this team to get back into bowl contention. Let's actually, so we were talking about how we're going to go about attacking this. We've got some Aiden Lawfrey to play. He spoke to the media yesterday. So did Josh McCray. Maybe we can play some of him as well. He's apparently trimmed down his frame, feeling healthy. Can he be a factor in this backfield once again? Then, of course, Caden Fagan, who we all think has the potential to break out and potentially be a stud. He's on the Bruce Feldman Freaks list, which I read through today. Obviously, that's a big honor and says a lot about his athleticism. Some of the player they're comping him to, at least in terms of what like Brett Bielema has said and what Feldman mentioned, is interesting and is putting him in some rare air in terms of like a guy with size and athleticism, that combination. But Illinois on the whole, one thing I did stumble upon today, and we haven't mentioned this, that I wanted to hit on. So Pro Football Focus came out with their power rankings for college football this year, and I saw Illinois at a decent spot. I mean, they're a top 50 team. They're 49th overall. I know that's not going to like blow anybody away, but it did have, based on their analytics, what they feel like Illinois' projected win total is, and it's actually more optimistic than what the Vegas line is, and what I think a lot of people around here are sitting here saying, hey, you know, if it's a decent season, if things go not towards the ceiling of this team, but a reasonable year, they're probably 6-6, right? I think that's where a lot of people land. Pro Football Focus says projected win total at 7, and projected chance to make a bowl game based on their crunching into the numbers and whatever goes into all this as far as the analytical side. Just shy of 75% chance to make a bowl game, which I had the same reaction as you guys.
Wow. Yeah. I'd have it right about a coin flip if you're asking me.
Yeah,
I'd say it's like a 50% chance this team gets to 6.
Me too. Notable in terms of some opponents, they're, of course, going to host Minnesota. They're 47th, so 2 spots ahead of Illinois. You go up a little bit further. I'm trying to find where Kansas is. That's going to be, as we've discussed, a pivotal non-conference game, really one that can change the outlook of your season if you win that. They're 33rd. You do have to focus in or factor in, of course, them going on the road and what that does to the odds of the Jayhawks coming into Champaign and winning, especially what should be one of the better environments of the year. At least we can kind of guarantee that's going to be a good environment, unless, of course, Illinois lays an egg and loses to Eastern Illinois. Of course, let's not go down that rabbit hole. Nebraska lower than Illinois, I was a little surprised at. 53rd in their power rankings. You do have to go to Lincoln, though. That adds a big challenge to that. Jimmy's Purdue Boilermakers at 59th. They're coming to Champaign for the Cannon game. Michigan State's coming to Champaign, 61st. They're below the Illini rather significantly. So's Rutgers, which that's a little bit different. Not that I'm not going to admit that or say that I've been out here reading a bunch of Greg Schiano preseason clips here, but I know that a lot of people are maybe circling the Scarlet Knights as a team that could surprise some people or outperform expectations. And they have an easier schedule.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know much about their team, but they avoid the top 4 teams in the conference, so that's got to mean something.
They do get Kyle Monungai back, who led the Big Ten in rushing as a running back. They get Ethan Kaliak-Manis, quarterback from Minnesota.
That's right.
So they've got some good pieces, and they had a really good season a year ago. And unfortunately, you're just living in the Big Ten East and having to play that brutal schedule there. But quite the opposite. They've missed all the top 4 teams in the conference.
Their defense was pretty solid last year, I think, right?
They gave Ohio State a run for their money, and they kicked 3 really short field goals in that game, whereas, you punch those in. And I think they had a pick 6 that if you avoid that, that's 19 points right there. And they might have been able to beat the Buckeyes there at home. So Rutgers, they could win 8 or 9 games if it plays out for them.
Illinois will be in Piscataway late in the season to play that Scarlet Knights team. No, it's not like going to the rack in terms of, I wouldn't say it's a house of horrors because Illinois has won, I think, the last 2 trips out to Piscataway on the basketball side, but will be a tougher game late in the season. But PFF is certainly one that's very reasonably winnable when you look at where Illinois is at 49th and Rutgers 62nd. Northwestern 64th in this rankings as well. So that you're at Evanston, or no, I'm sorry, you're at Wrigley Field. You normally be in Evanston at Wrigley Field for the regular season finale. So I found that interesting that your projected win total is 7, and that's telling you if you do have the ability to bet the over on the 5.5, which is the Vegas line for Illinois.
Yeah, that's shocking to me. I think I've pretty consistently seen Illinois projected at 5 or 6 wins. Like, I haven't seen much variation from that from anybody. It's 5 or 6, and that's kind of where I'm battling myself for. Do I think they're a 5 or 6 win team? I haven't really gotten to 7, but I mean, it just there's a lot of toss-up games on the schedule, and you just don't know how those are going to go. You just don't know. If this is the same defense we saw last year for Illinois, I don't have a lot of confidence. There's plenty of question marks about this Illinois team that I always just kind of play it safe and say, well, they'll probably win 50% of those toss-up games, and ultimately it's going to get to 6 wins. I don't know how high the ceiling is for this Illinois roster. Now, they can get to 7. 7 is probably... Would you say 7 is the ceiling for this team? I mean, I guess if everything falls right, you could be an 8-win team.
Yeah, I don't want to say, like you mentioned,
it's not the absolute, but it's the upper 10 percentile outcome is 7-5 in the regular season at least.
I'm with you on that. I feel like, of course, if you go through the number of things that would have to go right, like if the secondary additions are that big of a deal, where you have obviously Terrence Brooks coming in and solidifying himself as that number 1 corner. You have Matthew Bailey stay healthy. You have Xavier Scott, like you say, really solidify that corner 2 spot. And you can manage up front without Johnny Newton and Keith Randolph, and maybe Aaron Henry takes a stride forward or a big one in year 2 as a D coordinator. On the flip side of the ball, you get Zakari come in. He's the legit number 1. Luke Altmaier gets more comfortable. It could – I don't want to say they definitely can't win 8 if all those things go right, but 7 does feel like a higher end outcome in my opinion. And I'd love to be proven wrong on that. If they win Kansas, we're having a different conversation, right?
How quickly things will change if you win that Kansas game. We've talked about it so much. That game is so important.
Or even if you just play well in that game. and it's a good game, and you look good in it, because Kansas is, I think 33 might be a little low for them on a power ranking scale. I think they could be a ranked team.
Sure.
I did just hear I was reading something yesterday that reminded me Kansas is not going to be playing home games this year. They're playing at Arrowhead.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I didn't realize
they
that.
played some at Arrowhead, and they're playing some at the MLS field in Kansas City.
Mm.
So that could hurt them a bit. But I think if you just isolate the players, they got a lot of good talent on that roster,
especially on offense.
That offense
Yeah.
is great.
They're not fun to play against in the video game there.
I would imagine
with Jalen
not.
Daniels trying to keep him in the pocket is not fun.
Devin Neal at running back.
Yeah, when I started my Illinois dynasty and played Kansas week 2, Devin Neal had like 180 yards.
I cannot stop that man running.
Really, really good.
I think because of that 5-game stretch that we've talked a lot about in that next tier, or that next, going into late September into October, where it's at Nebraska, at Penn State, of course Purdue sandwiched in there. Then you've got the Michigan game and at Oregon. To have that 7-win conversation and beyond, I do think you probably got to beat Kansas,
yes.
right? I mean, not to say you can't fall, like Jimmy's saying, be really competitive in that game, fall short to Kansas, but then like beat Nebraska at Nebraska. Like that could happen.
I do think, to that point, like Kansas and Nebraska, to me, like you need one of those two to have like a good season to meet, like to try to get to 7 wins. I feel like those two can kind of be grouped together a little bit, to where you're probably going to be underdogs in both games, but they're winnable games. Like those two teams, I don't think are necessarily going to be. Maybe Kansas more so than Nebraska has a chance to be a lot better. Now that game's at home too. I just feel like when you're like making a betting line for those two games, they'll be very similar in terms of like Illinois will probably be a similar point underdog in both those games. But if you get one of those two, I think that would be really important, because if you lose both those games and then you also pretty certainly lose Penn State, Michigan, and Oregon, then we are talking like 6 would be good. Like to get to 6 would be an accomplishment. So those two are important to me. You don't need to win both of them, but you should get one of those two.
If we were to handicap it right now, we don't have some like model or anything. I know like the people that set lines have their own power rankings and models. Like, what would you say the Kansas game is? Is Illinois a 3.5-point underdog, a 6-point underdog? It's less than a touchdown.
It's less than a touchdown, but I think it'd be 5 to 6.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd throw like a 4.5 on there.
4.5,
just to be different.
All right.
And no pushes over here at my sports book.
I like it. Big Def on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. I truly believe this is an 8-win roster and a 5-win staff. So give me 6.
Well, and then you got to look at a what-win schedule, because that's really the different, especially the Big Ten West teams, and I'll hammer it over and over again. Like, you could improve a lot from last year and have a worse record because of how much harder the schedule is.
Right. I might be overthinking this, and I know we're going to talk running backs here, and Matt is going to lead us into that as far as what he says regarding what can lead this team into the kind of maybe the higher tier of the outcomes. With how tough the front end is, I wonder if they take so many lumps that, and this might be the wrong way to look at it, because it's not to say you can't be battle tested enough or make progress and even fight through some losses and then have a good end of the year. Like, we've seen that happen, but I do worry a little bit. Like, say you drop Kansas and say you lose 4 out of 5 against Oregon and Michigan and Nebraska and Penn State and Purdue, and possibly, obviously, worst case, you lose all 5 of those. Does the adversity, does the wear and tear, does the lack of confidence, do you just kind of go in the tank the rest of the year? Even though the back half of the schedule is a lot more favorable, I worry about things just going off the rails if you don't perform well enough on the front end.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting at 2-5 going into that last 5-game stretch, which I think you have 5 winnable games in, it's different than, I mean, it's just, you're trying to claw to 6 wins at that point, and it's a much different dynamic to me than if you're a 4-3 or 3-4 team. I think there's something to that, especially if you get beat down a couple times, like by
Michigan
Oregon.
and Oregon could beat your brains in.
Like if that's a 56-10 game, which I'm not saying it's gonna be, but it could be. And Michigan comes in here and pounds you. Like, that's different too than than if you're playing in a bunch of close games and it's just you're constantly in close, and things don't go your way. Like we saw a little bit of that last year where they just couldn't win a close game early and then they started to later in the year. But it is interesting how it kind of breaks that way. Like the first 7, other than your 2 gimmies, or should be gimmies. I won't call them gimmies, but you should win those games, Eastern Illinois and Central Michigan. Like that first 7, really tough, and then that final 5 is very gettable. So that's an interesting dynamic if you do dig yourself into a big hole early.
A big reason for Illinois and why they can get to bowl eligibility once again, have even a better season than that, is because of that running back room. And Caden Fagan is the guy that leads that charge. And Matt on the Max Twin City Recycling text line says, my hope is the running back room is the difference is a difference maker. To have a running back that's over 20 miles per hour is beast mode. That's for sure. And that's why you have Caden Fagan on Bruce Feldman's freak list, which I think goes down. How many guys does he have on here? Is it 100?
Probably, I think so.
I think it is 100 that he lists ultimately. He ranks them. So certainly the positioning on here matters. Caden Fagan in the top 25. He comes in at 24. If you're not on The Athletic, that's where it is. And the first line here is one that if you haven't seen him comp to this player or in the same breath as this player, it will kind of raise your eyebrows. When people here's how it goes. When people compare a player to Derrick Henry, he's probably a freak.
Ooh,
I haven't necessarily ever thought of Caden Fagan being Derrick Henry, but here's what Feldman, I'll read you some of what he says. When people compare a player to Derrick Henry, he's probably a freak. At 6'3", 253, Fagan is actually 6 pounds heavier than Henry was when he measured in at the NFL Combine. This offseason, Fagan's vertical jump was 39 inches, 2 more inches than Henry's. His broad jump, 6.5, 2.5 inches less than Henry, and he ran 21 miles per hour, and he's still only 20 years old. Of course, going into his true sophomore season. And when it was mentioned by Brett Bielema that Fagan hit 21 miles an hour, I'll raise my hand. I said, all right, are we sure it was actually 21? That seems really fast. Was it in pads? Blah, blah, blah. But it does later mention in this article on the note of Fagan that he was clocked at 23 or 20.3 miles per hour when he broke away from Minnesota last year on that little swing pass that he breaks up the sideline. So it's not like a huge increase of like 5 miles an hour to get him to 21. So I'm not calling Brett Bielema a liar here by any stretch or anything like that, but he's got freak potential with that combination of size and breakaway speed. Yes, Henry is the top end of that type of running back, but hey, it's a big deal to have Illinois featured in the freaks list, especially having a top 25 mention and one that's going to be very much fed the ball in this offense.
And let's just remember he's a true sophomore too.
Yeah.
Like this is a guy that is just going to get better and better. I think Caden Fagan is kind of going to be the de facto. I mean, you could argue some other guys, but like I think over the next like 3-year window, Caden Fagan is kind of going to be the face of Illinois. Like I think he has that potential. If Illinois gets back to what Brett Bielema's bread and butter is, a really strong rushing offense, and he has an 1,000-yard season or close to it, and then comes back as a junior next year and does similar, like he could be a huge star, like a Chase Brown level. Think about how big of a star he was back in 2022. I am really excited to see what Caden Fagan can do this year, because you look at him and you see how big and strong he is. You think of him as, okay, this is a power back, a move the chains guy. But the explosiveness flashed last year. Like when he had that 3 or 4 game stretch where he really broke out, like this is a true, I wouldn't be surprised if he hit 21 miles an hour. He is a fast, explosive runner that to me could be a 20, 25 carry a game guy for 100+ yards almost every Saturday. I think he's going to be a huge key to Illinois because, like you said, you brought up the numbers earlier. Like the rushing offense last year, we didn't really think about it all that much because we were so focused on the defensive problems, but it took such a step back. And you were going to losing Chase Brown. I mean, Chase Brown was a monster, and you gave him the ball 30 times a game. But I think Illinois, I had the numbers up. I think Brett Bielema's first year, they averaged 173 yards a game on the ground. And then in 2022, they averaged, I think, 166. Last year, 126. I mean, that's
the fewest that Bielema's ever had as a head coach.
Brett Bielema team's not going to be successful if he doesn't have a run game. Like, that's just the simple fact of the matter. And I'm high on what this running back room can do. And also, I think it'll open up a lot for the offense in general. Like, it'll make Luke Altmaier's life so much easier if you can really build that identity back to being we're a ground and pound attack. We've got 3 running backs that we trust, but we got one guy that is going to be a monster, one guy that we're going to lean on and is a threat for 100 yards every Saturday. And I think Caden Fagan can be that, and that's going to be important for Illinois because I don't think they can have a 7-win season if they're not a really, really good rushing attack again.
Yeah, prior to last year, a Bielema-led squad, when he's the head coach, had no less than 160 yards per game on the ground, and last year was 126. Now, you look at the meat of his Wisconsin tenure. I know Wisconsin, what was already established there with Barry Alvarez and whatnot, but, I mean, you're talking like 225 being the average per game on the ground.
That's unbelievable.
Can Illinois get to that? I mean, we'll see. We'll see. And Matt says, Luke runs the ball well too, and that's true.
Yes.
And I think that's something that they can complement when you have Luke's ability to use kind of that RPO or just read option game and pull it out of the belly and escape and Fagan between the tackles. And yes, especially when he gets to that second level and lets that full head of steam really get going, he can hit that 20 plus up to 21 miles per hour. We know Loughery, when he's healthy, I hope he doesn't have, and I hate to use this comparison, but I mean, like Mike Epstein was always banged up. Obviously, we know it's a different position, like Mikey Dudek. I'm not saying that Loughery's going to be that. You just want him to be healthy. You want him to be kind of that.
All 3 of these guys a little bit. I mean, Fagan missed the end of the year with an injury. McCrae's had his problems.
Yeah.
And Loughery, obviously. That is the one question mark, probably, but you hope that at least there's some depth there now, too. So it's not a Chase Brown situation.
Sure. To kind of tie a bow on Fagan, we are going to talk to him tomorrow. I'm really excited to dive into some of the freaky nature of what he's been doing with his athletic testing, but also just the growth from year 1 to year 2 and what he foresees for himself and for that room. But last year, when he really got unleashed in terms of his workload, 19 carries against Maryland, 84 yards and a touchdown on the ground. The Wisconsin game, 24 carries, nearly 100 yards and a touchdown. And then against Minnesota, he had 22 carries, a couple catches out of the backfield, and ultimately had about 150 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown on that little swing pass that he took to the house. So somebody that, as a true freshman, was impressive what he did, and hopefully he can build on that. We are due for a break here to talk or to hear from Thad Ward, talk more about the running back room, and Aiden Loughery as well. Before I do that, Kyle, can I bring up a couple of quick highlights from the Freaks list real quick?
Yes.
All right. Number 1, have you guys played with South Carolina?
Yes.
In NCAA football?
I know who it's going to be, Mr. Nick Harbor.
Nick Harbor, wide receiver. He's a 90 in the game. He's a 99 speed, 99 acceleration. He's a track star who plays
6'5".
Oh my gosh. Yeah, 6'5", 240. Track star for South Carolina, who literally is a second-team All-American in track and is also playing wide receiver for the Gamecocks. He's number 1 on this list for Bruce Feldman, and I now immediately need to try to go and fire up a game with South Carolina and see if I can just throw long balls to him.
Yeah, I haven't played yet. I need to now.
It works. Like I've done it, and like it's insane. I mean, I had a situation at the end of the half where I'm like, maybe I'll throw it to him, and I look, and he's wide open in like a second and a half, and it's like there's nothing that my opponent could have even done there. So and I know some people were looking at him as a defensive end maybe, but
really,
yeah, and he's a true sophomore. So and Legette's gone there, so he might have a big year for South Carolina.
Travis Hunter was number 2 on the Freaks list. I mean, just playing
That
both sides of the
speaks for
ball
itself.
at a high level. Don't have to really mention a whole lot else. You got Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan.
He's a beast.
He's there at number 3. If I'm looking at some of his numbers, it was crazy to me. Kind of give you a little bit of a kind of a summary version of this. The number of like defensive linemen that run 20 plus miles per hour, at least reportedly, based on what maybe coaches have said or what they told Bruce Feldman, is crazy. When you look at Kenneth Grant, he's 6'3", 350. He has a max speed. He was actually clocked in a game at 18.75 miles per hour. That's insane.
He ran down a running back against Penn State. Ran him down.
What?
Like, that's stupid. At 350 to be doing that?
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, him and Mason Graham are really going to pair up to be a great defensive tackle pair for Michigan. It's going to be tough to run on them.
They're said to have the best D-tackle duo in all of college football. Darrell Jackson from Florida State, a transfer from Miami. He's sitting there at 6'5", 328 pounds. He's run 21.6 miles per hour in pads.
Wow.
He also squats over 600 pounds and benches over 400 pounds.
Oh. So don't mess with that
that's
guy.
That's a little bit of weight.
Like Jordan Davis-esque from Georgia when you saw him running down quarterbacks to the sideline at 340.
Yeah. I didn't know. I should have known this guy. Like, Ohio State, their receiver just track record is ridiculous. J.J. Smith apparently is the number 1 overall prospect in 2024. He's a true freshman this year. He's on this list at number 7 as a freak. He's 6'3.5", 218 pounds. He benches 355. He squats 530, and he's run a max speed of 23.5 miles per hour.
They just pump him out. Ohio State. It's unbelievable.
That's sick. A guy that benches 355 and runs like 23 miles per hour plus.
I was reading something. Now, I don't know the validity to this, but there was some people saying that he is actually a better prospect than Marvin Harrison Jr. coming into Ohio State.
That's what some people were claiming. I did see that as well. It'd be interesting with a Chip Kelly now led offense. Will they be more reliant on the run? They got a really good running back tandem.
Yeah.
Travion Henderson and Quinshad Judkins. So
talk about unstoppable in the video game.
Not fun.
I mean,
man.
come on.
The Judkins spin move.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. It's Ryan Day and Chip Kelly was kind of clashing offensive styles. I'll be intrigued to see who really has more control with the playbook there.
And by the way, Emeka Egbuka's back.
Yeah. And they got Denzel Burke back on defense, who would have been a first-rounder this year. They got Caleb Downs. Yeah.
The safety from Alabama.
They got JTT back. Yeah, they'll be all right.
They're loaded. They're loaded. We don't have the time to go through all of this list. Iowa's their center is number 9 on this.
Fitting for them that it's an offensive lineman.
Yeah,
although I guess
or a tight end.
Yeah. I guess I would be surprised it wasn't someone on their defense.
You telling me Cade McNamara's not a freak?
Apparently not, no. 6'3", 293 pounds, converted defensive lineman. Won the shot put and the discus in high school. Vertical jump of almost 37 inches at that size. Now, it's funny, I was going through some of these vertical jumps don't maybe matter as much pertaining to their position, but it does just so kind of like
explosiveness,
overall athleticism. Yeah, that's fair. Did the program's second heaviest hang clean at 470 pounds. Hawkeye's record in squat at 695 pounds. I just can't imagine a bar even handling that weight on it.
I think Ferencz went up to Phil Parker and was just like, you know what, man, you got all the talent here. We're going to take one of your guys and put him on offense, all right?
It's only fair.
Sorry. Like, you'll find somebody else.
Only fair. All right, got to catch a break. We'll hear from Thad Ward, running backs coach for the Illini, also Aiden Lawfrey before we get out of here. Maybe a little Josh McCray, might run out of time, but definitely Caden Fagan tomorrow live on our show. But let's talk some more running backs when we return. This is The Drive.
So when was the last time you saw a best deal guarantee?
You mean a promise that actually held up?
Right.
That some unknown online entity didn't want you to log in and download a code and then re-verify as you join some club.
Drives you nuts, I know.
And then once you purchase that set of steak knives...
Well, Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is a lot simpler. You find a verified great deal and they beat it. Just show them the deal you saw. A newspaper clipping or the online cart price will do, and then you're good.
At Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, it's one of those instances where you see a best deal guarantee and...
you get the best deal.
This is Dennis Rieken, chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. Our exclusive 10-year protection plan comes free with most appliance purchases. Whether it's a GE, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, Bosch, or any of our 30 brands, I guarantee we will beat any competitor's deal. Wow!
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, when you buy from us,
At Pards in Urbana, the boots just keep on coming. They're known for their huge collection of men's cowboy boots, women's cowgirl boots, kids' boots, and even shoes. If you're searching for top footwear brands, look no further than Pards. They carry a wide variety, including Ariat, Dan Post, Smoky Mountain, Roper, Double H, and more. And if socks or accessories are what you need, they've got all your high-quality essentials. Since 1968, Pards has been serving their customers with high-quality merchandise. And if you haven't been to Pards in a while, a lot has changed. Go check them out just off University Avenue in Urbana.
Attention all truck drivers looking for a new opportunity with great pay and amazing benefits? Gale Frericks Trucking has got you covered. Join their team, receive a $4,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, $4,000 just for coming on board. Plus, enjoy a $1,200 gross weekly pay guarantee. Drive their state-of-the-art Freightliner Cascadia trucks equipped with a revolutionary system designed to reduce weight and downtime. Get home every weekend and some nights during the week with paid vacations and holidays. They offer company-sponsored health insurance and all the benefits you deserve. Regional drivers get first priority. Don't wait. Apply in person at Dedicated Diesel, 1313 Triumph Drive, Urbana, or call Tim at 765-505-1295. That's 765-505-1295. Start your journey today with Gale Frericks Trucking.
Look at that. Look at it. A pile of junk, a stack of rubbish, some buckets of yuck. Are you tired of looking at it? 2 Minute a Junk Truck is available for junk removal or dumpster rentals to get rid of your heap of muck, accumulations of dreck, and mountains of cast-offs. Go to 2minuteajuncktruck.com and schedule your time. Let us help you make room for what matters most. 2minuteajuncktruck.com for your junk removal and dumpster rentals.
Friday, August 16th, the Cardinals host the Dodgers. That night, 25,000 fans 16 and older take home a replica Turn Ahead the Clock jersey, inspired by the 1999 Cardinals' vision of baseball's future. This is one you don't want to miss. Friday, August 16th, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the replica Turn Ahead the Clock jersey. Get your tickets today at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Mason Wynn, St. Louis Cardinals, for the Lou.
We all have a mission in life, something that drives us to explore, to grow, to love. And when we discover it, we're made whole. At OSF Healthcare, we want you to be the best you possible. We're here for you on your schedule to make your life just a little bit easier. Whatever your mission is, we're here to support it. Your life, our mission. Learn more at osfhealthcare.org/mission.
Sticky nights and stuffy rooms make it hard to enjoy your home during the summertime? Call Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing to make sure your air conditioning is working at its peak performance. Tune up your AC by joining the maintenance program and get all the perks it has to offer. Call Dogtown to come out for a no-cost quote to upgrade your system today with a Lennox high-efficiency system that will be sure to save you money on your energy bills and let you relax comfortably. Call 217-841-4728 or visit dogtownheatingandair.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend.
Crystal Lake Park Family Aquatic Center is open for the summer swimming season. Bring the whole family for a fun day at the pool. The pool opens weekdays at 12:30 p.m. and Saturday and Sundays at 11 a.m. Buy a pool membership or punch cards for savings on admission. Stay up to date on Facebook and Twitter for special days and events at the pool. Have fun and splash in the sun. Go to Crystal Lake Park Family Aquatic Center this summer. For details, visit urbanaparks.org.
Looking for the best deal on your next vehicle? Visit Sarah Champagne, where your dream car awaits. From sleek sedans to rugged SUVs, they've got it all. Their unbeatable prices and exceptional customer service make car buying a breeze. Plus, with their hassle-free financing options, driving off in your new ride has never been easier. Sarah Champagne, Honda, BMW, Subaru, Buick, GMC. Visit them today. Sarah, SERRA, Champagne.com.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. We talked all about Caden Fagan and what he can potentially do this upcoming season. His mention on the Bruce Feldman Freaks list. Let's hear more about him as well as Aiden Lawfrey, also Josh McCray, who's trimmed up his body and healthy now. Let's see if he can get back in the mix and be a factor for the Illini. But Brett Bielema and also Barry Lenny Jr. have really come out and made it clear we need more balance on offense. We need this running game to take a step up a notch. And Thad Ward coaching those running backs in that room. Let's hear from the running backs coach, Thad Ward, who spoke to the media recently. Here is Thad Ward.
Coach Mike, you got to be a happy man. You got a full stable of healthy running backs to start camp. What's the vibe with your group?
Good vibes. I'm excited to have them all back, full and ready to go. They're playing good football. They got a lot of them have a year under their belt, and so it's showing up in the first two practices. We right now have to take the next step. I think we're headed in the right direction. A good group. Just it's good to see the maturation and things that they've learned over the last year now be able to translate to the field. So but still a lot of work.
With Caden in particular, what's that look like for him versus maybe where he was as a wide-eyed freshman last year?
Yeah, it's amazing to go back and look. I was showing some film to one of the younger guys that's learning, and the old film from last year, some of it was Caden and some of it was Aiden. Those guys in a younger mode. So to be able to see the maturation between those two, they look totally different. Both of them look totally different. I'm excited about it, and they're showing up on film.
Brett has talked about being excited to see this complete group of running backs. What has you most excited about this group?
Just having them all back. Like we always talk about having different flavors. Those guys bring a lot of things to the table. Obviously, Aiden brings the speed and the electricity. Big Caden brings the thunder. Josh is going to bring the thunder. They do a little bit of everything, but those guys have different flavors, and I'm excited to have them all back. They're happy. They're helping each other out. They're repping, and it's been great to have them all back.
With such a dynamic group of running backs, how does that aid in competition within the room? Like, how do they make each other better?
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. That's one man sharpens another. But they feed off of each other every single day, and it's pretty unique to be competitive as they are, but also to help each other out. It's pretty unique. We got a great group of guys that are not selfish at all. That's unique in that room. It's one ball, but those guys are all working and really just focus on getting better each and every day. And if they focus on that, the things will happen. It'll all shake out in the end. And so that's what they're focused on, just getting better one day at a time, and then let the chips fall where they may from there.
And one thing you've heard Coach X said before too is that run game really opens up everything for the rest of the offense. So that can be the same case this year, and how do you see that playing out for you guys?
Absolutely. When you talk in terms of who our head coach is, all right, it all starts with running the ball, all right, stopping the run and covering kicks. That's how you win. That's the formula for winning. And so that's where we're going to be. We're going to try to run the ball, and that's where it starts. So
Everyone loves to hear about freshmen. How's Khalil Valentine look so far?
he had a good practice yesterday. A lot better than day one, to be expected. First day out there with all those guys, and so a lot better yesterday. And hopefully today is a lot better than yesterday. And so just keep making strides. You know, he has some guys that have played ahead of him that are helping him out, and he's watching them. He's had to master the mental rep, so he may not take as many reps as the older guys, but he's had to master and see what those older guys are doing, all right, and trying to learn from that as well.
What kind of back is he? What tools does he bring with him?
Yeah, he's a guy that's dynamic, right? He's going to be a guy that can catch, run out of the backfield, be able to be dynamic, be explosive. I think we'll have the potential to have a explosive home run hitter when we're all said and done.
Chris talked a lot about Josh. What does a healthy? It feels so long since we've seen Josh healthy. What's a healthy Josh look like? What do you think some of that excitement builds with what he complements in that room?
Yeah, to me, if you go back to the FAU game last year, that's what a healthy Josh looked like. The guy who closed out the game in 4-minute offense and was able to and bring us home. Powerful, runs behind behind his pass. He's underrated as a receiver out of the backfield, but he's really good at catching the ball. Has some of the best hands on the team. He's been a leader in our room. It's third year in the offense, and so just glad to see him back, fresh and healthy. And with the dynamic group that we have, we should be able to keep all those guys fresh and healthy.
And then Brett called Caden kind of like a freak and has some freak. Like, how would you describe him? And if freak is the term you would use, like what stands out about physically what he's able to do?
Yeah, he's just an ultra talented kid. He's a great young man, first of all, which enables him to be and have the talent that he has, and then be able to put it into place, man. You should see the notes that he takes, right? The most in-depth notes of any freshman I've ever coached in my 20-some years of coaching. Just the detail that he puts into everything that he does, and just the want to, right? The want to and the makeup and the unselfishness. I can talk about him for an hour, but he's an awesome kid, and I think you're going to start to see him come into his own. But he's excited about this opportunity to get back out on the field, and just he's going to continue to grow, right? He's not a finished product at all, which is awesome for us, right? And he's just going to continue to grow each and every day, and I'm excited about that potential.
And with Aiden, it sounds like people said like the light kind of went on for him in the spring. How has that carried over, and what's that look like on the field? We challenged him this summer, right, to do that, right? He had a great spring. I mean, unbelievable spring. And that guy that we saw this spring, I challenged him. I want to see it in the fall. Take the next step, and he's been that from practice 1 to practice 2, and we're expecting him to be that guy all the way through the fall. He's been dynamic as well. Is what we brought him here for, to be that kind of guy. He's home run speed, he's electric, catch the ball in the backfield. The one quality that he's showed up in our room the most is he's the leader now. Like, he's a young guy, but he is the leader. He's a vocal leader. Didn't see that when we got here, but man, he's been unbelievable this entire summer, really from the spring to the summer. He's a different guy. I got to be honest, he's a different guy. And so just proud of him and the growth he's had, and we expect some big things from him. Can we please close it out with the last guy that we haven't talked about, Jordan Anderson? What's he look like? Has he recovered from that ACL and kind of a similar flavor as Caden? What can he bring for you?
Yeah, Jordan's been awesome, man. I'm so happy to see him out there. It's been about a year that he hadn't been on the field. He's had some success in the first 2 days. Just interested to see to increase his role more and more, in practice as we continue to go. But he's been awesome for the first 2 days. Just happy for him. Team's happy for him. Anytime you have an injury like that, to be able to come back, guys are excited for him, man. He's out there making plays, so really excited for him.
Are you mindful of the injuries going into camp, or is it just full speed ahead and chalk it up to bad luck, or is there a load management kind of thing?
It's always full speed ahead for us. Kind of how we do things. The injuries are part of the game. It's just what it is. Injuries are part of the game, unfortunately. It's part of it. But we're full speed ahead in everything that we do. Those guys, they're good. They've been back for a year. They've been cleared by the doctor, so we're full speed ahead.
Good stuff there from Thad Ward, the running backs coach for Illini football. Hopefully, injuries won't be as much part of the game, at least for that running back core. You think, in particular, Caden Fagan. Would love to see a full season of Aiden Lawfrey, and just for Josh McCray, even if he's not going to get as much carries as Caden and maybe even Aiden, like I just want that for him to be able to see the best version of himself here pushing forward for Brett Bielema and company. Heath did bring up on the Max Twin City Recycling text line, we were talking about injuries last year. He said, both Caden and Aiden had some high school injuries as well. So Lawfrey last season played 9 games, missed 3 with an injury, played 1 game as a freshman and redshirted. So he's had some times of getting banged up and hasn't been fully available quite yet. Someone that it was exciting for the Illini to be able to land him. Iowa was firmly in that mix out of high school, GCMS product. So both him and Fagan, local in terms of this type of area, Central Illinois, and trying to see those guys show out and different dynamics that they can bring. On that note, let's hear from Aiden Lawfrey, how things are going in training camp and how he's feeling about the upcoming season.
Well, Aiden, just how's camp going so far? Yeah, it's been good. It's fun. Really excited for this upcoming season and the opportunity we're going to have. How's this one feel different for you going into your 3rd season here? feels a little different, the fact that, I've been here before, I've had the experience, I know what to expect, and that's kind of something I feel like I've done this camp has been better about talking to younger guys, kind of helping them out, helping them, this is what we're going to do, it's long days, long hours, like we'll all get through it together and kind of let's work hard, like we're here, let's freaking work.
Coach Ward talked about you had a really good spring and he challenged you to carry that into training camp. Like what was your summer process to kind of keep that momentum rolling into the fall?
Yeah, the weight room, Coach Tank and his guys, like they did such a good job this summer, like implementing kind of ways to prepare us for the kind of mindset we're going to need to have during the season and throughout games. And I think like as a team, we all kind of took that approach mentally, like, okay, we're doing this, like I'm in this zone right now, like I'm thinking about this, okay, we're doing that. Like I just feel like that's kind of helped the team overall kind of, take ourselves to a different place mentally, so that way we can take it to a different place, on the field or training or whatever that might be.
I guess what carryover maybe have you seen from that just in a week of camp?
Yeah, I think the preparation has been a lot different. I think guys are preparing at a level they never have. Taking, whether it's extra notes, like really honing in, talking to coaches like extra. I think a lot of guys are really honing in on preparation.
Is everybody finally back healthy? Does it feel kind of like a reset for you guys in the running back room a little bit?
Sorry, you repeat that?
Does it feel like a reset for you guys in the running back room with everybody finally back healthy?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like to have everybody in that room. Running back's position, we all get banged up, and things like that happen. But to have everybody in this room working the way we are, like in this camp, it's been amazing. And just to go to work with them, go get a guy out, like break a big run, like just working back and forth and really taking our game to the next level in the meeting room. It's so fun with those guys.
How have you progressed the most as a player the last year or so?
Yeah, I think it's really just going back to what Coach B says, like do your job. When you focus on doing your job, like everybody in our room is going to have success, everybody on our team. If all 11 guys on the field are doing their job and that's what you're focused on, you're not worried about anything else, we're going to have a lot of success.
Tim Onstadt, Gale Ferrex Trucking, Dedicated Diesel. How is everything at Dedicated Diesel and Dixie Chopper?
Well, Dedicated Diesel is going great guns. A couple weeks ago, Donna put in an order for some new machines. We got some great fall deals. We've sold most of the inventory, so we got in a new shipment. We've got new Classics, Blackhawks, Excaliburs, Eagles, Z2, and the new Falcon. That is a nice mower.
So when people try it and get on it, I bet the higher percentage buys them, probably feeling the handling and everything?
Yeah, it's hard to go back to something else once you've driven a Dixie Chopper. And that Falcon seat is the most comfortable mower seat I've ever been on. It is incredible. The Falcon, we've got a great deal on that for $7,000. The introductory price is $9,000 on it, and we're going to get rid of them as fast as we can. Well, that's a 60-inch deck on that Falcon, so you can do residential, commercial, cut a lot of lawn with that.
Attention drivers. When it comes to your car, trust matters. That's why savvy drivers choose PDR Automotive for top-notch service and unbeatable quality. From routine maintenance to complex repairs, their team of expert technicians has the skill and experience to keep your vehicle running smoothly. At PDR Automotive, customer satisfaction is their priority, and they won't rest until your car is back on the road performing at its best. Visit PDR Automotive in Urbana today, family-owned and operated for more than 50 years. They're what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
You have money laying all around your house. You just don't know it. And no, I don't mean selling your great-grandma's good china. I mean all the old metal items you don't want to use or get rid of. Don't pay someone to haul it away. Bring it into Max Twin City Recycling and get paid to have it taken off your hands. They love new customers and are more than willing to walk you through their process step by step. Come check them out at 2808 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana.
Starting it over is what we do at Max Twin City Recycling.
very happy and honored to have Dr. Abraham Cottrell, cardiac electrophysiology, OSF, Heart of Mary in Urbana. What is AFib?
Yeah, so atrial fibrillation is a heart rhythm disorder, and it's actually the most common heart rhythm disorder that needs treatment. So about 6 million Americans have it currently, and it's expected to increase to about 15 million by 2050. So it's a growing problem. There are lots of things that lead to atrial fibrillation, and this includes diseases like diabetes and hypertension, sleep apnea. Other factors that lead to it are an excessive alcohol and tobacco use, being overweight or obese, and being sedentary. Generally it's an older person's disease. Generally, if you have other heart conditions, it's worth looking for, so that there's a condition called heart failure, which commonly is associated with atrial fibrillation. So hopefully, if you have one of those conditions, those patients are being seen by a cardiologist, and that cardiologist is paying attention to the heart rhythm and keeping an eye on things to look for the development of atrial fibrillation.
To learn more, visit osfhealthcare.org.
Here's another home improvement insight from Kramer Siding and Window. New roofing and siding are a winning combination that can instantly change the look, feel, and function of your home. Our Kramer Siding and Window team takes pride in being an Owens Corning Platinum Preferred contractor, able to offer a best-in-the-business 50-year warranty. Pair it with preservation siding in your favorite style and color, and your home will be a showstopper. Start today and save 10% on roofing and 25% on siding. Call us, click on kramersiding.com, or visit the showroom in Champaign.
In an ever-changing real estate market, it is so important to work with experienced agents like Russ and Nick Taylor with the Taylor teams at Taylor Realty Associates. They have the knowledge and expertise to get your home sold for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Trust the experience and success of Russ and Nick Taylor with the Taylor team at Taylor Realty Associates. Give them a call today at 217-355-0700 or visit them online at taylorboys.com. That's taylorboys.com.
Want unbeatable prices on your next furniture purchase, but also seeking that local hometown feel? Look no further than Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola. Customers rave about their friendly, established staff, as well as their great selection, amazing prices, and second-to-none delivery service. They're a third-generation local business, and they've always got your best interests at heart. Find the look you love for less. Open 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, but always available online at kelseyfurniture.com. That's kelseyfurniture.com.
Finishing up on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. As mentioned a number of times before, but Caden Fagan tomorrow. Make sure you tune in to tomorrow's show for that. You heard from Aiden Lawfrey, and maybe we'll get you some Josh McRae at some point. We're really excited to talk to Caden Fagan on tomorrow's show as part of Illini Football Media Days. Before we leave you, let's get to a little bit of NFL news out there. Excited to do more and more of this as we go through this month of August. But Brandon Ayuk has been part of some trade conversations. There was a report from ESPN that the Patriots are no longer involved in those talks to potentially land the disgruntled wide receiver out there in San Francisco. Jimmy's Pittsburgh Steelers said to be in the mix. I think that the Browns have also been linked there, even though they do have Amari Cooper and they traded for Jerry Jeudy. So we'll be interested to see what ultimately happens for him. Quickly, guys, how much does that change for San Francisco if they do deal him? I mean, they still have plenty of weapons with McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle, but Ayuk had a really nice year last year, and I said off the air, semi-jokingly, Justin Fields would have another weapon there if he goes to Pittsburgh.
I would say Ayuk is not your typical, he's just another part of the system. I think he offers something that San Francisco really doesn't have, a high-level deep threat like him, in terms of his caliber. So, I mean, yeah, you can look and the Niners have put a bunch of guys into their offense and they've become stars. But I think a guy like Ayuk and a guy like Kittle, guys like McCaffrey, those guys, it's their talent that's winning them the game. Whereas I think Deebo Samuel, while he's really talented, is more a product of the system than anything. I think Ayuk could be a star player anywhere, and I don't think he's really a super replaceable piece for them.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think he is a just that he's gotten better every year, and I think he's a true number one receiver at this point. I think he was kind of a guy that, while San Francisco and Brock Purdy and that system kind of gets linked to the success of that offense, I think Ayuk is a monster. And I would be interested to see, like, Brock Purdy without Ayuk, how does that look? Does San Francisco's offense? Now, you got Christian McCaffrey. They're going to be a top offense in the league, but I think San Francisco would take a step back offensively without him. Like, to lose your number one guy, and I don't know what the depth looks like behind him outside of Debo, who's kind of turned into more like a gadget player at this point. It's interesting. I think it would hurt.
They drafted Ricky Pearsall from Florida, who made some pretty impressive catches